Hello, this is Dr. Ranganathan, Senior Neurosurgeon, Astaprem Hospital, Amirpet, Hyderabad. Now, today we are going to talk about a happy ending to a melodious drama, a problematic, difficult, technically problem. That is the return of Sunita Williams and Wilmore to Earth. The initial planning was for about 8 days. She went by the Starliner, Boeing. And she returned to Earth, Indian Standard Time, on Wednesday, 3:27 a.m. During the intervening 9 months, this period was never expected for any astronaut to be retained in the space forcibly. But as people say, these astronauts are made of tough material. They are trained like that. There are nothing like discouragement, there is nothing like fear or scare in their books, because they are tuned like that. They all know that the space travel is a risky affair and it's associated with a lot of problems. In spite of that, they've decided to go to the space. And not only that, Sunita Williams, this is not the first time. And she went earlier 3 times. The total number of days in the space for her is a record of 608 days. A lady at that age of 59, she holds the record of second lady to have the highest number of days in space. There is another point called spacewalk. Spacewalk is that from the secure International Space Station where they live all the time, suddenly they go out and do some experiments, some scientific studies, some repairs of the International Space Station, and only that little bit of hinge hanging to the International Space Station. That is what is spacewalk, and that is a life-threatening situation. And she did this time also spacewalk twice. The total number of hours spacewalk she did was 62 hours and 7 minutes, and this is a world record. Now at 59, a lady has been doing all this. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine what a brave soul she has been. And the interesting point you have to note is that there are 4 astronauts who come back to the Earth on Wednesday. Sunita Williams, Barry Wilmore, Nick Hague, and Gurbanov. Gurbanov went to the space first time. Henry Hague, of course, had earlier experience also. You will be interested to know that both the spacewalks are one, Sunita Williams is the common factor. And once Wilmore, the other time it's Hague. And the new person has not been given the chance. And while she stayed in the space, every day she was seeing the beautiful sunrise 16 times every day. And she went around the world, around the Earth, 12 crores miles and 4,768 orbits around Earth. Now you can imagine that how much of the stress and the strain has been. While she was in the International Space Station, there are so many reports have come that she's become thin, she lost weight, she's looking sick, and all that. And brave soul Sunita Williams have been repeatedly saying, no, I am being fed very well, I am very well, I am exercising every day 2 hours, and don't be worried. Of course, the supplies to the space station, they are replenished every 3 months by the cargo ship. What are they eat there? The dry fruits, dry food, because the International Space Station is a totally sterile zone. Nothing can, once infection means that's the end of the story. The station has to be closed and the people and the inhabitants are all at the risk of infection. Now this is the story which we know reasonably and a little bit repeat also. Now she has come to the stage. Now if you see the way the meticulous planning of NASA, this is again a small story. NASA stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Whatever happened, she went by the Starliner, Boeing, and they have repeated meetings with the management of the Boeing Starliner, SpaceX and NASA in Houston, Texas. And Starliner have been assuring them, look, we can bring back by our own Starliner spacecraft. Absolutely secure, safe. NASA was unwilling. The memory of Kalpana Chawla while entering the Earth orbit is still fresh in their memories. They said repeatedly, we are not going to take a chance. So safety is the rule. And they stood by that point, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate NASA. And once the President of America's roles have changed, the present President Donald Trump has come. He has requested in one meeting his so-called close ally and friend, Elon Musk, the owner of the SpaceX. Look, enough is enough. Now we have to bring back both the astronauts who are stranded there in the space at the earliest possible. And this man has been on the job from that time.
I have asked Elon, I said, do me a favor, can you get him out? He said, yes, he is preparing to go up, I think, in 2 weeks. Elon is right now preparing a ship to go up and get him, and he knows it very well. I said, are you equipped to get him? He said, yeah, he's got a Starship.
Actually, the spaceship should have been a new ship they were planning. The big problem is that it's taking more time. So, one which is used the spacecraft to the space earlier, they have refurbished, they have remodeled it, and they spent and that is the SpaceX 9. And ultimately, they touched down. And if you see the way the planning has been, it's meticulous. And Monday EDT, that is Eastern day-night time, that is the time what the eastern part of America follow. The difference between India and Eastern time, that EDT is something like 9 hours. At one time, that is 8:30 Indian Standard Time of Monday, the latch has been closed. Few steps I'll talk about how meticulous how on dot mathematical precision it has been done. And the hatch means the door between the spacecraft and the International Space Station. That means saying bye-bye. And the problem started then. Then the undocking. That means no more attachment to the International Space Station. That means the spacecraft has to come down now. There's no way. They cannot be there in stay state. And precisely at 1:05 a.m. on Tuesday, the spacecraft undocking has been done. From that time, 16 hours it has traveled down to the space, through the space, down to the Earth. It's rapid, I'll tell you the timings. After 16 hours, 7 minutes later, 1.5 minutes later, the thrusters are fired. These are the various steps. Then there is a 27 minutes of free fall, because by the time the spacecraft entered the Earth orbit, atmosphere, there is gravity. So once there is a gravity, you don't need to effort, it will just fall down because it's pulling down the spacecraft. And the last 12 minutes is still interesting, that is, with the parachutes, travel for about 12 minutes. They landed at the coast of Florida, and there was a ship from spacecraft ship to immediately latch the spacecraft inside. And after some time, the astronauts have come out one by one. And I told in a couple of occasions, there is a discipline, there is a system, and there is a precision. The first person who came out of the spacecraft into the transport ship has been the newest person, Greenhorn Robon. The next is Nick Hogg, third was Williams, fourth was Wilmore. See, these two senior people can push their way and say that we're going to go out first. We have been there for 9 months. The other two are there only for 6 months. No, sir, that's not the way. The system is followed. The discipline is absolutely pakka. And they landed in the water. As I told you, the moment they landed in the ocean there were dolphins saying, hello, Sunita, you have come back. We are happy to see you. Now, few of the people have been expressing after seeing the photos, why the people have to land on the water? Why can't they come down out of Earth? There is a scientific reason. The moment this ship is coming down, it's like a fireball, 16,000 degrees temperatures. and jet speed it comes down. And once it reaches this earth, slowly the speed reduces. By parachutes, further, there are 6 parachutes arranged, 2 to provide the stability and 4 subsequently for each one of them. And by the time they into these parachutes, it becomes slow. So the impact will not be that massive. And in the water, it's a cushion-like feeling. So there is no danger. Suppose they land in the vertical land, you can understand what will happen. It's a catastrophe. And then, of course, she was shifted to Houston. And Houston, all the astronauts were shown to their relatives. Now, once they landed in Florida and shifted inside the trolleys, there again questions were raised. Why they are going in a trolley? They are going in a trolley because for 9 months they were not under the influence of gravity. For all of us, the Almighty has provided effect of gravity where we stand on the field, isn't it? But for 9 months they were not so. That's the reason for them to take, it's going to be weeks or months, imagine, to become normal, to get adjusted to the so-called environment. Now the doubts have come. How soon they'll recover? Do they have any problems? What are the health problems likely? And how soon they can recover? And for this, a wonderful study from NASA. It's a trailblazer study, I can say. This was done between 2015 March to 2016 March. Interestingly, there are twins, Scott Kelly and Mark Kelly. Both are twins, brothers, identical twins. They are chosen by NASA in such a way that Scott went to this one space. Both are astronauts, but Mark stayed on the land. So they compared, after staying there for 340 days, they compared the changes in Scott and Mark. And what a beautiful study. And that was published in April 2019 in Science Journal. That is something like Bhagavad Gita today, to say that if somebody is staying in longer time in the space, what are the consequences? What are the problems? And this is laid the roadmap to not only for Sunita Williams and Wilmore and other two, but what people are foreseeing when the man is going to land on Mars. And that's a journey for 3 years, coming back. So at that time, will any changes will come? It will be a roadmap, it will be a trailer, it will be a rehearsal by knowing all this. And the important thing is that changes in the chromosomes preference, expression. And another important thing, what people say jokingly, is they put on little height is increases. What is the height? In 6 months, I believe, 0.005 seconds duration, they become young. Height is also increasing because the telomere, which is the part of the chromosome ending, which subserves the function of length, also changes. But that is minuscule. Compared to the risk that is of people going to have subsequent problems, this increase in the height or what you call age, they become young, they lose the creases, the hair becomes more shiny. They're all minuscule things. The nails become tall. The other problems, main problem is vision problem. What's called spacecraft associated neuroocular syndrome, SANS. The eyeball becomes small. The eye vision in the periphery becomes not visible that clearly. The objectivity is less. The retinal folds increase. The choroid folds increase. Ultimately, the eye is not the same. And how long they recover and all, maybe after 6 months, sometimes they may not recover that fast. The other thing is, main problem is muscle mass. It is said, it's known that the muscle mass, if somebody is in the space for 5 days, they lose 25% of the muscle mass. Now somebody who is there for 9 months, imagine how much they have lost. For that, of course, there are very special exercises. They don't keep quiet. And at this point of time, Sunita Williams or Wilmore, they are not sitting idly. Oh, sad, thinking sadly that when are going to come out, when are going to see our kith and kin. No, they are doing experiments, they have been doing researches. The number of experiments they did was 150. and 900 hours, research hours they spent. In the bargain, they laid, as I said, a pathway and also a analysis set, data for the future generations who are aspire to go to the space. And as we know, you keep hearing that the space tourism is going to the future, where so many companies like SpaceX and Amazon, Blue Origin Galactic, they're all thinking of sending the people, normal civilians, not astronauts, to the space. So this is a big tourism, massive money for one ticket. So they are exploring that way. So for all that, all these important points. Then once the muscle mass, the bone density is something like they lose about 1% every month. And in 9 months, how much they lose, please understand. And also the gut bacteria, flora also changes. Luckily, once they come down to the earth, it settles down. There is a folate vitamin, B12 vitamin, they also changes. And most important is the cognitive function. You can ask me, what is the cognitive function? Cognitive function is the memory, the communication, analysis, all this. In Scott Kelly, once he came down to the earth after 3 or 40 days, his memory is not that sharp. He was very slow. He's not remembering the same way. It took a long time to recover. Of course, the other day when Sunita Williams and Wilmore coming down to earth, he was addressing in the Fox TV an analysis. His brother Mark, who stayed on the earth, has become a senator, Democratic Party senator from Arizona. See the differences. The other problems, as I said, as cancers, the skin cancer, because of another problem other than the gravity is the radiation. It's cosmic radiation and also space particle electric radiation. Very dangerous. They develop skin cancers, cancer like prostate, breast for a lady. And all these tests are done prior before they go to the space station. But even then, there is always a possibility. The heart size becomes shrunk because the heart, there is no much of function. Because the whole blood goes up to the brain. The heart size becomes shrink. And of course, the lungs also, the function has become less. The immune system, which is the most important thing, becomes less functional. Luckily, the ISS is a secure, what you call sterile zone. But once they come onto the earth, it's not that sterile, obviously. So there is a chance of getting infections. The carotid arteries, which are tube-like structures to the blood supply to the brain, they become sclerosed. There are so many changes were observed in Kelly, of course, Scott Kelly, who went to the space for 340 days, but most of them luckily has reversed. Still there are some more. The same may happen, that's the worry to Sunita Williams. And total space days for 608 is not a small amount. Only one lady, Peter Shelton, who was there in the space, a lady, 675 days, is a record. Now people, those who have seen the video when the spacecraft is coming down and touching the earth, not that exactly, onto the sea at Florida, it is something like a fireball, just like fire. The moment it enters the earth orbit, there is a friction. The heat with which it was traveling is massive, phenomenal. You can imagine if the spacecraft outside is not well made, it can just melt out. Most important technically, people are thinking that this part of re-entry is the most difficult thing. 3 trials NASA people tried to get Sunita Williams, Wilmore within these 9 months. This is a fact not many may not be knowing. But because of these hitches, the safety concerns, and the re-entry into the orbit safely, they have to be stranded for 9 months. And now, at this point of time, I will appreciate the ISRO group and also the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Prashant Nair and Duvada Subramaniam. They are coming out with a wonderful, wonderful research. Probably it's going to be path-breaking, ladies and gentlemen, for the future also. As I said, the re-entry and coming down is the problem, isn't it? Safely. because of the supersonic speed, the radiation, the heat, all these factors. So they are coming out something like a balloon type structure. And that is called inflatable aerodynamic re-entry, decelerated re-entry. That's in the formative stage, but they are already developed the pro. And if really formalizes, the Indian scientist's name, like many other great scientists earlier, will be in the map of the space research. That's in the big way. So ultimately, space Sunita Williams have come down, and she is now in Florida because there the training again goes back. It's not that simple. She can go back to her house. And there are prayers, 21 temples, Hindu temples in America. And in Ahmedabad, there was Havans repeatedly. And the village Julsan, that is Mehsana district of Gujarat, people were praying in excitement when she was landing, and the whole night people are awake. And her cousin Falguni Williams, she was saying, what you call Pandya, that I'm going to throw the samosa party, because earlier why samosa means Sunita Williams was the only astronaut who tasted what you call samosas while in space. And the Prime Minister of India has sent a wonderful note to Sunita Williams as she's coming down, that 2016 you have visited India. And now that you come down, do visit India. He has been missing you. And saying that, he has posted a photo where Prime Minister Modi went to America in 2016 and met the families of Kalpana Chawla and Sunita Williams. These are all very heartening things, and I hope that the great person, Sunita Williams, nothing will happen and she will recover to normal, and probably some other day she may aspire to visit to space again. Let's all hope so. And Wilmore is no less. He is also a brave soul. Wilmore's daughter has been saying, my father is a hero, and he will definitely come down. Of course, there are prayers in the Texas Baptist Church for his safe recovery. If you ask me, well, in the real life, who are the heroes and heroines? I'll say it's Sunita Williams, Wilmore, the other two are the real heroes, not the cinema heroes, like the soldiers and of course the doctors. So who else can be, what's it called, keeping their lives at risk, being in the space for 9 months, never complaining, never leaving their work, grit, determination, courage, scientific fervor. Who else will say heroes? So we salute our heroes, Sunita Williams and Wilmore, and hope for the best. Thank you.